Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the new Power Apps capabilities available in the April release. Before we get into those details, we want to talk about the framing that we use to think about Power Apps. We use a digital feedback loop, which is something that you've heard about consistently throughout the other streaming videos in the digital event, which talks about how we go connect together customers, products, and people to actually enable digital transformation. And we do that through the 6 main offerings of marketing, sales, services, operations, financials, and talent, which together create a great deal of data which you can go feed back and forth between these applications to go transform how you engage with those customers, your products, as well as your employees. A key underpinning of this digital feedback loop is the platform elements. That's Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, Power BI, Azure, and the artificial intelligence capabilities from Microsoft. And these platform capabilities are an essential ingredient to the digital feedback loop for a few basic reasons. The first is that when you ever want to go do digital transformation, the easiest way is to go buy an application off the shelf. And with Dynamics 365, we have a plethora of options available to you, which all make it very easy to just take something and quickly change how you actually run your business. The next bit, and this is where the platform becomes very important, is that none of those applications are perfect right off the shelf. You have to go customize them and tweak them to match what you need to actually make your business processes run as you need for your industry. And the platform is how you go about changing things like the sales and service offerings from Microsoft. And the third bit is equally important. The reality is there isn't always an app for that. Sometimes you can't just go buy something off the shelf. Instead, you have to go build it. And to build it, we have a great platform here at Microsoft to go make that real. And a good visual to think about that is this one. If you imagine digital feedback loop has the big elements that are available through the SaaS applications from Dynamics 365, there's all kinds of small pebbles in between those that are key to actually doing a digital transformation and making the digital feedback loop real for your business. And this last mile is enabled by the platform. The platform makes it incredibly easy to quickly build applications that integrate tightly with your data and your existing business processes that you use within your organization. And this is really that last mile, that last element of what it takes to truly transform how you engage with your customers, your products, and your employees, or your people. And if we go and think about what does that platform really mean? The business application platform. If you drill into it, you can see that there's Power Apps and Power BI as the two big elements of it. Power Apps is all about rapid application development, quickly creating experiences embedded in all your other business processes and applications tailored to what your business needs. And Power BI, which is all about creating insights and intelligence on top of the data that's part of your business. And these elements integrate with a few other core products or core capabilities, the most important of which is the Common Data Service. We have the Common Data Service for applications, which is what underpins Power Apps. It's where all your system of record data is stored, as well as Microsoft Flow, which makes it incredibly easy to do business process automation and workflows on top of that data and on top of your applications. For Power BI, it also has the Common Data Service for intelligence, which is what actually enables you to quickly build insights and optics into the data that you've accumulated from your applications. Together, these two elements create the business application platform, Power Apps and Power BI. And what's great about them is they also share the common data model. The common data model is a really important detail for what the business application platform enables because it's a well-defined, consistent schema to describe your business data and your business objects. In addition to the common data model, there's connectors and data integration capabilities so you can very easily reach data that may not be in the Common Data Service, whether it may be inside of SAP, Workday, or Salesforce. Over 200 different services have completely native integration with Power Apps and Power BI out of the box if that's where your data is today. And what's so unique about Power Apps and Power BI from Microsoft is the tight integration we enable with Dynamics 365, Office 365, as well as your standalone business applications that you create. If you go inside of SharePoint lists, the way that you actually change the experience for your end users is with Power Apps. The way you go create workflow and automation is through Microsoft Flow. Same thing applies if you go to Microsoft Teams or a bunch of other Office 365 offerings. If you go to Dynamics 365, it's completely natively built on top of the Power Apps platform. That means you can go customize all your Dynamics applications using the same knowledge and tools and capabilities that you see in Power Apps, which enables our customers, to that earlier point, to go tailor our SaaS applications to exactly what they need to go change their business. And of course, for that last mile that we were talking about, you can go build your standalone applications and your standalone experiences on top of Power Apps and Power BI. And when that may not be enough, when maybe you have to go an extra mile, you can go drop into Azure. And Microsoft has incredibly tight integration between Power Apps and Power BI and Azure to make it very easy to go bring in developer code through APIs, connectivity, or just logic that may be beyond what you want to go do in a high productivity application platform like Power Apps. And to show these things in action, we're going to talk about 3 real customer examples that are out in the wild today. First, we have Metrobank. Metrobank uses Dynamics CRM to actually manage all of its engagement with its customers. And this is a great story of how you take Dynamics 365 off the shelf. You can actually quickly change how you go engage with your customers. But in their case, there was more to it. They wanted to go have an experience where they greet people who walk into the bank. And to do that, they built the Power App. So with Microsoft Power Apps, they were able to go build a tailored experience for their greeters, an app called mGreet, so that whenever you walk into the bank, they can give you a high-touch, highly tailored experience specific to what it is to be a Metrobank customer. And this connectivity between Microsoft and Metrobank really transformed and enabled that close customer engagement, which is so important to Metrobank as a company. And that's what the story really is all about. You can take Dynamics 365 off the shelf, change how you do business, and as needed, you can turn around and drop into Power Apps to go build experiences as needed, as required, and just exactly how you want them to go engage your customers. Another great example is G&J Pepsi. Here's a great story of how they changed how they engage with their product, as well as how they empower their employees. They had a problem as the largest family-owned Pepsi bottler in the United States in that they wanted to go audit individual grocery stores to make sure that the placement of the Pepsi products is up to their standard and up to the agreements that they already reached. To do that, it was a paper process. People would go out with clipboards, and if they wanted to go order more inventory or anything like that, they had to go make phone calls and send text messages. However, with Power Apps and Power BI, they were able to transform what this process looks like. First, they were able to go build a mobile application. So as people actually went into these grocery stores to go do these inspections and these audits, they could use Power Apps to record and track every single thing that they noticed and whether or not they were actually getting the placement that they expected and wanted. And to go beyond that, to really change the process and how they actually manage their products, they were able to go and add a function to go order more inventory or request more delivery to that store, which is a thing that before couldn't really be enabled, certainly not enabled digitally, but they could go transform that because they had Power Apps running on a mobile app to go be brought into the store and actually help with that process. And as a result of all the data from Power Apps flowing into the common data service for applications, all kinds of other great capabilities lit up. And primarily, that would be Power BI. It's very easy to create Power BI dashboards on top of the common data service, which allowed them to go get insights that they couldn't do before. And this, again, is a story of how you can go transform the way you engage with your products. And the third example is TransAlta. So TransAlta is a very large company based out of Canada that manages repairs of electric wind turbines. And to do that, one of the common problems they had is if a turbine breaks off hours, how do you determine whether or not to go inspect and repair it at that moment or to wait until business hours or more scheduled repairs? And the way it worked before was either you always sent people or you had to make a judgment call about whether or not it made economic sense. However, they were able to go convert this to a digital process, to digitize that decision-making framework to decide whether or not they wanted to go actually repair these wind turbines. And this process was a huge success in terms of actually driving significant savings, and in just a matter of a month, actually paid for the development of the Power Apps, of the Power App itself, because they're able to go improve that business process of wind turbine repair by bringing that into a digital framework and digital system. So that's what's so important and so unique about Power Apps across these 3 customers is the real story of how you can transform that last mile of engagement with your customers, or that last mile of how you track your products, or again, that last mile in the case of TransAlta of how your employees interact with your products. And this it really tells that story of the complete digital transformation and digital feedback loop that we were talking about earlier. What we're seeing across all these different customers and across all these different industries is 2 basic principles of what application development is trending like. The first is that IT application development is shifting towards low-code, high-productivity environments. And the reason for that is because it enables incredibly rapid application development to respond to the changing business needs and regulatory needs of a modern company. And that is only really possible with a platform like Power Apps because it makes it so easy to actually go build an application. And the second is those high productivity application platforms orbit around the data that you actually already collect for your business, your CRM data, your ERP data. And the reason for that is what we talked about earlier. It's all about transforming how you engage with your customers, your products, and your employees. And that data is naturally stored inside your CRM and inside your ERP. So you really want to have that tight connection between your high productivity application platform and these business applications like CRM and ERP. And this story and these two basic trends that we're noticing in the industry are what have driven us as Microsoft to ship these three products, Power BI, Power Apps, and Microsoft Flow, to really deliver on that promise to our customers. And we have major investments of them in the spring release of this year to go make them be even more unique in the marketplace. And what's super core to each of these application platform components is that they're cloud first. That means very easy sign up, very easy setup, and no deployment. You can get going in just a few minutes. Second is it has built all around a single data store. What that means is we have the common data service behind Power Apps, behind Microsoft Flow, and enabling intelligence and Power BI on top of it. And we make that very easy without having to go do data movement or data integration. And what's great about that as well is that Dynamics 365 natively stores all of its application data for sales, service, and marketing directly in the common data service. And the third bit is we recognize all your data may not be in the common data service, it may be in other systems. And to make that just as easy, we ship with over 200 connectors to the industry-leading system of records and business applications to make it so that you can connect to where your data is today. And that's an incredibly key element of the platform and something we support natively out of the box with no coding and for no additional cost. Additionally, we support an incredibly rich cross-platform development framework, which makes it easy to go build applications and workflows in BI that may run on iOS devices, Android devices, in the browser, or on a Windows PC. All of those are supported natively out of the box, and you only have to build your applications and your experiences once, and they'll work across all those different platforms. Additionally, everything is centrally manageable. One of the biggest concerns we have when we talk to customers is that with this easy-to-use platform, you're going to have an explosion of applications and workflows and BI inside of your company. But we make it easy as an IT department to take control, to have data loss prevention policies or DLP policies to make sure that data doesn't leak out of your organization. There's also incredibly powerful reporting and auditing support as well, so you can track what people are doing in your organization and make sure they're only behaving according to your policies and compliance and regulations. And lastly, and something that is particularly unique for what we have with our platform, is that there are no cliffs. You can start with something incredibly simple and get more and more advanced all the way to building an entire end-to-end application without having to go abandon this high productivity application platform. And we do that because of our Azure integration, our Office integration, our Dynamics integration for each of these three offerings. And to make that story real, let's look at this diagram of the no cliffs. For SharePoint embedded forms, there's tens of thousands of authors already building experiences embedded in SharePoint, which are reaching an even larger number of users using the Power Apps capabilities. Whenever you build a Power App, you can embed it right on a SharePoint list to replace the default form experience. And that means the same skills you use for your business applications, you can also go put in your productivity applications, something unique to what Microsoft offers. Next, you can go build relatively simple or straightforward line of business applications. And to demonstrate this, we'll talk about a real story. Brian Dang is a teacher based out of Orange County who went and built Power Apps to digitally transform how he runs his classroom. And he actually did this in a way where he built different Power Apps to help the students learn more efficiently, as well as a gamification app to help students track how well they're doing on tests and how well they're doing from an attendance perspective. And Brian tells a story about how Power Apps changed his classroom in that it dramatically improved the results on tests, as well as efficacy of the coursework that they've learned so far. And Brian has no coding experience. He's not an engineer. He's a teacher by trade, went to school to be a teacher, but he was able to go take Power Apps off the shelf and start to transform that last mile of his classroom. Another great story is Mohammed from Harkri Pharmaceuticals based out of Iraq, a real consumer of Power Apps. They had a process which was heavily manual between email, paper, and Excel files to go track visits to other pharmacists and doctors. But Mohammed, again, with no technical training, without being a developer, he's actually a pharmacist by schooling, was able to build a completely digitally transformed process with Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and Power BI to change how Harkri Pharmaceuticals engages with and helps their customers operate better and make sure that their employees are able to better track the work that they do and what they're doing from a territory management perspective. Again, no development experience, but able to go transform that last mile for his company using this platform. The fourth item, this is Evan. He works at a consultancy called Confluent, which helped a company called IPS. And Evan is a developer or basically an engineer by trade. However, he was able to use Power Apps to build an incredibly robust, complex application to change the way IPS does electric motor inspection and repair. And they did this using the powerful WYSIWYG capabilities available in Power Apps. You can have a picture of a particular motor, and as people go in and inspect it, they can click where they've actually inspected, where they see issues, and rate different problems. And by doing this, they were able to go from a pen and paper whiteboard process to a fully digitized process. And this digitized process is able to actually enable all kinds of new customer experiences. Before, they wouldn't be able to reach out to their customers and let them know that the repair is almost done, but now they can do that because each stage and piece of the process to go repair the motors is tracked digitally and can go generate things like emails and so forth. And again, something that's not available off the shelf, not even available by customizing something off the shelf, but a custom line of business application that's very complex that had to go be built using the Power Apps platform to go make that real. And lastly, I say the most complex. We have ISVs and partners who are building on top of the same platform. This is a picture of the Banksite team. They're a professional development organization. They sell software, and they're building their entire application around better engaging customers when they go walk into banks on top of the common data service, on top of Power Apps integrated with Dynamics 365. This is a full development team with source control, dozens of engineers, and they're able to go make it work using the same platform. They don't have to go look into building everything from scratch. From the most simple SharePoint form to the most complex ISV application, all of it can happen without cliffs on this single business application platform, which includes Power Apps, Power BI, and Microsoft Flow. And this is really what our vision is. We're all about democratizing app creation. We want to make it possible for people who could never change their business to start changing their business today. And this is something that Microsoft is not new at. This is something Microsoft has an incredibly rich legacy of doing. From Excel, Access, InfoPath, Visual Studio, and Visual Basic, across all of these different things, Microsoft has been at this for decades. And really what we look at with Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and Power BI is the cloud reimagination of those particular capabilities. And we see that momentum in the market. If we go look, there's tons and tons of huge logos that you may recognize. There's over 1.1 million monthly active users on this Power Apps and Microsoft Flow. There's over 213,000 organizations. All of them are using these capabilities to transform how they actually run their business. And we'll talk about, through another demo in just a couple minutes, a real example of how a customer has done that. And just another element of it is PCMag. They did a review of the low-code high-productivity application platforms out there, and Power Apps was their editor's choice. And that's because it just has so much power that you could go use. And again, really what that means is no cliffs. You can start simple, basic UI, basic forms over data, but as needed, you can add more and more expressions and more capabilities without having to go to a different platform. And this broad spectrum of capabilities, including the ability to go dive into Azure, is something that only Microsoft can do. And to show how real that is, we're actually going to turn it over to Ryan Cunningham, who's going to do a live demo and actually build a real Power App that matches one of our customer scenarios.
I want to talk about Intercars today. Intercars is the largest distributor of automotive spare parts and repair supplies in the EU. They serve 16 countries. They call on more than 10,000 individual customer locations. Now, their field sales force of more than 600 people, that means they're visiting almost 100 locations a month for some people. That's a constantly mobile, on-the-go frontline workforce. Now, what we'll talk about is how Power Apps can start to help with some of those frontline business scenarios, automate the types of processes and build the applications that you just can't find anywhere else or buy off the shelf. Let me give you an example of one of those scenarios. Now, Intercars sells not only automotive spare parts, they also sell repair supplies like this tool chest. And that comes stocked with tools and individual wrenches and socket sets, and that's a great deal for them the day that they sell it. But a year down the line, half of these wrenches are missing. Some of the sockets are broken. And restocking this tool chest becomes a whole different proposition entirely. The classic method of that seller who has 20 minutes a month to be on this site, to bring in a 200-page parts catalog and flip through it page by page and try to find this one particular little socket set to make a manual order just was not scaling with that business. So today we're going to talk about how a company like Intercars can very rapidly build extremely custom applications for a scenario like this very quickly in Power Apps. Let's dive in and take a look at how it works. Now, we like to talk a lot about how powerful Power Apps is and how quickly you can build. And there are a lot of great ways to get started, not even starting from scratch with great templates and samples to jump off the bat. But today, we are going to start from scratch, from a completely blank canvas to show just how powerful this platform is. Now, as Power Apps loads up here, you'll notice that what you're about to see is not your traditional software development environment. In fact, it looks nothing like Visual Studio. It looks a lot more like PowerPoint, and that's no accident. I've got screens of an application that I can add just like I would add slides in a presentation. And visually, they light up for me right on my canvas here. And I can use my Office skills to do very simple things. I can theme it. I can make it look like my company by inserting a logo or an image element. And all of this is very easy to do with my mouse. Let's go pop in our logo here from our computer and upload it. And I have full control over the visual appearance and look and feel of this app. This isn't a config thing. I can make this look and position exactly how I want it to. Now, of course, I'm not just pushing pixels around. What I'm also doing is able to work with a whole rich set of connected data sources. In fact, right out of the box, Power Apps connects to more than 200 individual applications and services where my company might already have data. Everything from Adobe to Zendesk and everything in between. I can do simple things like connect a filtered search of tweets about my company, more sophisticated things like access a SQL server running on-prem through a gateway. But of course, actually, in this case of Intercars, we don't need any of that because we have something even more powerful. We have the Common Data Service. Common Data Service is the data platform that comes with Power Apps that, as part of this spring moment, is getting a radical expansion of its capabilities. And for customers that are building net new applications, it comes with rich schema and logic right out of the box. For customers like Intercars that already have data in the Microsoft Cloud, in Office 365 and Dynamics 365, that data just lights up by default. So we're going to pull in a list of accounts and a list of products and a list of line items of those products here. And Power Apps already richly understands the nature of that data and information. I can put templates on this type of information, and we know where to put the images, we know where to put the titles, we know what rules to enforce when these things get updated. And that all is just coming natively out of the box with the Common Data Service. Now, of course, my Office skills still apply. I can make a title larger, I can go bump up the font size. All these things are very easy and familiar to do, even if I'm not a traditional software developer. But this is not PowerPoint. These are not static boxes and static pieces of text. These are actually bound to data under the hood, connected to that list of accounts in my business database in my platform. And I can change that binding on the fly. I can say, hey, let's make this the full name. And over here, let's make this one the address. And just like that, my application is updating in real time as I'm designing it. I'm actually using the app as I'm building it here to get instant feedback about how my changes are taking effect. It really helps the less traditional software developer make very rapid progress here. Now, of course, I'm not even limited to a single screen. I can go build navigation into this application. I can say, hey, when I click any one of these icons, go take me back to another screen and keep building. Now, all that is powerful and all that is fast. But I'll level with you. This is something I can do in other low-code platforms as well. Here's the thing. This is right about where every other low-code platform on the planet stops being low-code. And when I want to do something a little bit more sophisticated or a little bit more custom tailored to my business than just formatting a list and putting a logo on the top, that's where I really quickly hit a cliff in a lot of other platforms. But with Power Apps, we're just getting started. And I want to show you a few elements about what makes this true, this ability to very quickly scale in sophistication and amplify what a whole new range of makers can do inside of this platform. And we'll start with something very simple as an example. Now I can add text boxes and images and the whole nine to this application. And I can, just like I could in PowerPoint, type a static piece of text into this box. But you'll notice as I'm doing that silently behind the scenes, we're updating this Excel-like formula in everything that I do. Now, in fact, every single element and property of every single control in this application is governed by an Excel-like expression. by a language that millions and millions of people already know how to speak. In fact, we honor the entire Excel syntax right here in Power Apps, and we've added a few things to it to help you build applications quickly. It means that I can very quickly get productive and do sophisticated things without having to learn an entire programming language. The delta to get here is just much smaller. So let me show you a really simple example. Let's, instead of just typing a label into the top of this page, let's go grab the thing we selected out of the gallery on the previous screen. And you'll notice here that IntelliSense is actually helping suggest to me all those same fields, all those things I know about this account. I can go back and pull through the full name out of IntelliSense, and it's going to update right inside of my application, just like that. Now I could build myself a little bit of a back button, and now we have an app that's actually responding to context across screens, passing the value of the customer that I've selected here. Now that's a very simple principle, but it applies very powerfully to the rest of this application. Now let's use it. Now remember, we're trying to prove the process by which we restock a tool drawer here. So let's go add a list of those tool drawers, and let's wire it up to our list of products. And again, let's pick a rich template for this, this particular list. Let's get something nice and visual here. Now we don't want to show all the products, we just want to show the last one that this particular customer bought. So we're going to pop it in here and tighten up this particular little gallery to get to this tool drawer. But we want to go further than that. We want to look inside the drawer and see what particular sockets and wrenches we want to restock. Well, we can do that too. We'll add another list. We'll bind this one to the items that come inside of the tool drawer. Now, we don't want all of the socket wrenches in our entire database. We want to filter it down just to the ones relevant to this particular product. And again, we can do that with this very simple Excel syntax that we can learn very quickly. I can say, hey, let's filter this product items list. And again, just like in Excel, Power Apps is going to walk me through it. It's going to give me a nice template to fill out. The IntelliSense is going to help me. I'm going to say, hey, show me all the product items where the ID of that product item equals the thing that I just selected on the previous step. In fact, IntelliSense is smart enough that I barely need to type it all to get this done. So I wrap that up, and Power Apps is going to go off to the server, grab back from the common data service just the wrenches in my particular tool drawer. Now, of course, I still don't want to hunt and peck through a list. I want to see what this thing is supposed to look like in real life. And it turns out that we're laying out our tool drawers on a predictable grid, and in Power Apps, I can build that with just a few strokes of my mouse. I can literally recreate exactly what this tool drawer is supposed to look like. So now my employee, rather than walking in with a big book of spare parts, just opens up a drawer, sees what it's supposed to look like, sees what's missing, and can do the difference. Now, let's finish this scenario out. I want to, when I actually select what's missing, go collect that information and start to build the order of what I'm restocking. I can say, hey, when somebody presses a button, go collect together the items that they tap on. Again, I'm just using my mouse to collect these things. And I can then do things with that collection. I can go to the fill property, the color behind this particular wrench, and I can write logic. This is rocket science kind of software development here, but we're making it so simple. I can just say, hey, if this item is in that collection I just created, again, IntelliSense helps me out, let's make it blue. Actually, blue-violet, beautiful color. Now, as I start to build that collection, I also obviously want to see what I've collected. So I'm going to go insert a table. I'm going to drop it to the bottom. I'm going to bind it to that collection we just created on the fly. And I'm going to say, hey, give me the name and the, let's say, how about the quantity of the thing that we've selected. I'm going to tighten that up, and just like that, I've built a process that is extremely custom to my business, where I walk in, I pull open the drawer, and I say, oh, that's missing, and that's missing, and that's missing, and that's missing, and we need one of those too. And just like that, we're building this custom order. There is not another platform on the planet that can go that fast and build this custom of a process without touching a single line of code. Power Apps is extremely powerful in that regard. But of course, there will still be problems for which we need to write code. And for example, I'll come back to this first step. You know, we skipped over a detail here. It turns out it's not actually all that useful to give every single one of my 600 field sellers the list of every single one of the 10,000 accounts in the database. I don't want them to have to hunt for where they need to visit. I want an employee to know exactly where to go in the morning. Given their geolocation, which we know because this is running on your phone. Given their identity, which we know because you're logged in with Azure Active Directory, tell me exactly where to go. Now, that's not something I'm going to write in an Excel expression. More power to you if you can. But that's a great opportunity for a professional developer to create create a building block that comes in and augments this experience without having to throw out all the goodness that we've got here in Power Apps. And we've done just that. In fact, we've stubbed out this Azure function. It's going to run serverless and on demand. This professional developer didn't have to worry about infrastructure or anything. They just write the code that says, hey, given this geolocation of latitude, longitude, where should I send my person next? And you'll see we've kind of stubbed out the answers there. And if you do this in Azure, if you do it in Azure Functions or API Management or a number of other Azure services, we make it real easy for you. We give you this nice export to Power Apps and Flow button right within the professional developer experience that lets you light this up in a few clicks for a low-code developer working here in Power Apps. And in fact, just like that, all these data sources that we showed earlier, the whole 200 that come out of the box, we can add to that list with any custom data source, any service, anything we can put a REST API in front of and wrap in a Swagger file, we can bring here into Power Apps and allow our low-code developers to go even further without hitting that cliff. So I can say, hey, don't just point this at the list of accounts. Let's actually go point this at the route mapping function that we just added. And let's pass it our location. I'm using all the same tools that I just learned before. I'm going to go pass it my latitude and my location.longitude. And just like that, it's going to go fire off to that Azure function and bring me back in a few seconds the list of 4 stores that I should visit, not the list of 10,000 that I might want to go to in the whole database. And that's how we hit a whole nother level of sophistication in these applications. Now, of course, that's still not all. At the end of the day, it's not just about this one application or this one screen or this one tool drawer. It's also about how these things work into the fabric of our business processes across all of our applications. And to give you a simple example of that, if we continue building this app out, and we'll cut forward here in a second to a more finished version, at some point I'm going to place this order. At some point as a seller, I might want to request a discount for this order. Now, I may or may not actually have the authority to approve that discount on the fly. And in fact, for a distributed sales team, different sellers have different levels of ability to approve different discounts when they're out in the field. Now, still I can automate that business process and I still don't have to break into code or expensive customization. In fact, I can build that whole approval process in Microsoft Flow. And Microsoft Flow comes with the platform and it allows me to visually, logically design business processes like I would draw them on a whiteboard. It's connected to all the same data sources that Power Apps can pull in, and I can very quickly build logic just like this. When a new order hits the system, let's go grab everything we know about the user requesting it out of the Microsoft Graph. And then if that discount request is over a certain threshold, in this case 25%, let's go kick off an approval process. And I can write this just like I would compose it as a message. In fact, I can pull in dynamically data from those previous steps, what we know about the user from Office, what we know about the order from the Common Data Service, and I can use it to build this approval process. Microsoft Flow takes care of the rest. So let's see this whole thing in action, end to end. I'm going to pop over to my mobile phone here. Now, Intercar's employees can work in a bring your own device culture, and Intercar's developer can publish this application in an instant. It will run inside a Power Apps container on iOS, on Android. It'll run on the web. All I needed to do is log in with my company ID at the front door, and I can get a polished application that looks awesome and is just for my business process. This was built using exactly the same tools that we just saw. So I'll get up in the morning. I'll say, hey, where should I drive first? The application will suggest me exactly where to go, how far away it is, a promotion I can offer that customer when I get there. I can dive in and I can see just a slightly richer stylized version of this process. I can pull open a door of the tool chest. I can say, hey, we're missing that one, and this one, and this one, and that one. And I can build this order all the way through. In fact, I can request my discount here. I can even sign it and use all these great touch device capabilities inside of Power Apps as well. Now, I've requested this discount. It's over my threshold. You notice as I did that, this button for submit an order is actually changing to a request approval button. And as I request an approval way over my discount here and I send it off, it's not going to immediately commit that into the system. It's going to tell me, hey, your request is pending. Somebody will get back to you soon. Now, for the cake of this demo, I happen to also be the approver, and so I can see that push notification came right in from Microsoft Flow, right here on the mobile device of the approver. I know exactly who requested the discount, how much they requested it for, and I can approve or reject and add comments right here within the fabric of my experience without even missing a beat. And Microsoft Flow handles the rest, soup to nuts. It keeps track of exactly the full approval history and logs everything. In fact, logs all that information right back in the Common Data Service for me. So let's switch back to the desktop here. And you'll notice that I actually also got that approval message right inside of my email, right inside of Microsoft Outlook. At the same time that I got it on my phone, I can richly use it right inside of the rest of the tools that I'm already using all day long for productivity. And that's really powerful as we start to zoom out further from this experience. Again, it's not just about the one application. It's not just about the one business process. It's really about how we start to use these tools, this Power Apps platform, to richly customize and extend everything that we get from Office 365, from Dynamics 365, from the intelligence and the action that we can take on top of that. For example, the data is in the Common Data Service. The model is richly understood. Building business intelligence on it is a breeze. I can quickly build a dashboard in Power BI that says, hey, for my back office, exactly what did we sell to Stingray Auto Repair yesterday? And where were they? Or how many support incidents do they have open? I can even build a rich custom visual to show me exactly what this customer ordered. Now, this whole custom visual on the right, was that developed by a professional developer as a Power BI custom visual? No. That's a Power App. I built that in exactly the same way that I built the mobile application that my field sellers are using out at every auto shop all day long. And in fact, that same pattern extends across the rest of my Office experience. Here in SharePoint, where I'm uploading images of these socket wrenches and logging which position in the drawer are they. This is not the standard SharePoint form that comes out of the box. This is a Power App. It's got a customize button on top of it. In fact, now every SharePoint form, every custom form across SharePoint Online has this same customize button. Guess what happens when I press it? You're right, we fire up Power Apps, and you use that exact same design experience that we saw in building the original application to build out custom experiences inside of the rest of your apps as well. It's not just about the frontline worker scenarios. It's not just about my field sellers out there in the field. I'm also using this platform to fundamentally transform my back office as well, and the rest of our processes and applications around it. See, on the other side of Intercar's business, every time a field seller is out there ordering more socket wrenches, we have to maintain a whole network of supplier relationships as well. And we have to know where we're going to get those socket wrenches from and how much they're going to cost, and if we can get them from a better place tomorrow. Now, we can still manage all of that on this rich platform. In fact, we're here in the Power Apps management experience. We can see all of the entities that we're managing across our business right here in one place. So all the individual accounts and appointments and addresses and products and suppliers. In fact, even here we can richly model and extend that data model that comes out of the box and add our own entities, our own fields, our own particular rules about what to track. It's super easy to do right in context here. For example, I already have one, but if I want to go create a status field and I want to make it of a particular type. In fact, I could make it a static text box or a number. I can even make it a multi-select, an option set, and I can even create that option set right in line here of my application. I could say, hey, one status is good and another status is not good. And very quickly, I can customize the surface of this application at the data layer as well. And then Power Apps gives me the ability to quickly build on top of that. Now, I can build the Canvas-based applications that you just saw me create, the very visual PowerPoint-like applications where I start at my user experience, but I also now have another option in Power Apps. I can model these applications as well. I can start at this data model, at these relationships, at the rules that are attached to these individual entities. And I can then automatically generate applications on top of them. Let me show you an example of one of those, then we'll pull back and see how it was built. This is a supplier management dashboard for my back office to track all the individual suppliers that we have relationships with and all of their status in adding to this system. And in fact, we're right in the process of adding a new supplier, AC Delco here, and I can build a rich application, completely customize the rich forms and business processes that I need to onboard a new supplier into my system. In fact, I can even model this rich business process that shows me step by step, walks me through as an employee at each stage of the process what I need to do. So it really cuts down on the training time and enforces consistency across this particular application. I can say, hey, have we received a proposal from the supplier? Yes. When did we get it? We got it today. Have we completed our legal review? All these things are mandatory for me to proceed to the next stage of the process. I can even then, continue to sign things, and it will tell me exactly what to do as I go. And in fact, you'll notice a nice little thing down here. It automatically is calculating for me that the contract should start 14 days from today, from the day that I said that we should kick it off. Now, how did I create all this? Did I build all of these with individual, check marks and lines and arrows and fields like I did for the Toolbox application? Actually, no. I modeled the application. I modeled the process. I visually designed the business process and said at each stage of onboarding a new supplier, here's exactly what we need to ask for in the order we need to ask for it in. And here are the fields that are required to go on to the next step. And then I brought all of that data, the entities involved in that and the processes themselves, and I brought it together in a subset of an application module. And then I pressed publish, and all that great user experience, which by the way is responsive right off the bat, was just automatically generated for me, and I can use it everywhere that I need it. So extremely powerful capabilities to both start at a rich user experience for your highly custom processes and start at a rich data model and automatically generate that user experience for your more immersive back office scenarios and application. Now I can even set these automatic business rules attached to the entities and the data that run on the server. I can say, hey, for example, that rule that automatically calculated the contract start date, this is exactly what it looks like to build. I didn't have to write any code for that either. I just said, hey, when all of the individual review steps are complete, if we have a contract receipt date, let's go automatically calculate 14 days from now. That's when the contract start date should be. It's just a couple of drop downs, I can publish it. And because that's running on the Common Data Service, because both of these applications are built on that same data platform, I can leverage that rules and the server-side logic in my Canvas-based applications as well. So back here where we started in Power Apps Studio, I'm building out this sort of tablet or web app for supplier management and status management. And I can come in and leverage exactly the same logic. I can say, hey, yes, we've completed all of our reviews and our receipt date of that contract is today, and I can go update this thing, and just like that, the same rule will run on the server. It'll go pass that information off to Power Apps, and the start date itself has been updated to the exact same date that it was on the model-driven side of the house. An incredibly powerful set of tools. We've really just scratched the surface today. And in fact, in a moment, we'll go back to Charles and talk in a little more detail about many of the new features that are coming to the platform. But it's exactly these tools that customers like Intercars are using to transform their business processes from the front line to the back office and everywhere in between. And it's this same set of tools that you too can use to bring digital transformation to your company. We'll go back to Charles and talk more about all the details of the new goodness that's coming to the platform in this spring release.
And now we're going to drill down into the new details and new elements of the spring release for Power Apps. We're going to talk about the key capabilities that are included now. The first and most important is that Power Apps is tightly and natively integrated with Dynamics 365 as well as Office 365. And for the first time, Dynamics 365 for sales, service, and marketing data is natively available inside the Common Data Service. Another interesting and powerful element is the new model-driven UI capabilities. These are in addition to the existing WYSIWYG Canvas-based app creation that you know and love from Power Apps, enable a new set and new type of applications to be created. The third item is that the Common Data Service and the Common Data Model have taken a huge step forward. There's a bunch of new capabilities included in the data layer, as well as a new and much more clearer Common Data Model that can be used across applications. And for those situations where the Common Data Service is not the right choice, we have over 200 connectors, tons of great enterprise connectivity, as well as new data integration capabilities to bring data into the Common Data Service when and how it makes sense. And lastly, very rich enterprise governance and compliance capabilities so that you can go bet your business on the Power Apps platform and run the most mission-critical workloads on top of it and not worry about hamstringing or restricting citizen developers within your organization and make sure that you still are being compliant every day. If we go look at that integration element, this is a great picture to show what it really looks like. We have Dynamics 365, Office 365, and custom applications all built on top of this single platform. And this platform spans things like Microsoft Flow, the Canvas-based UI creation capabilities, model-driven UI creation capabilities, and all of it on top of a very rich common data model and common data service. And if we go look to the bottom of this diagram, there's a few really important bullet points that we want to make sure that we hit and make sure that you take away from the spring release of Power Apps. The first is that all the Dynamics 365 data is now natively integrated inside of the common data service. Just like we talked about before, it's available in place. It's not a copy. It's not a data integration. It's available right inside the common data service, which allows you to build incredibly powerful applications against your existing business data with ease. And this is what we think about and what we talk about when we mention that the Dynamics 365 integration between Power Apps and the common data service is better than ever. And this is really only made possible because of these new common data service capabilities and the new model-driven UI capabilities. And Power Apps, again, is just an incredibly broad and rich set of capabilities that make it possible to go build application experiences that complete that last mile of digital transformation we talked about earlier in this session today. And to go make that real, if we look at Office 365, we can look at 4 great examples of integration. The first is Power Apps embedded inside of a SharePoint list as a SharePoint form. Power Apps is the natural and cloud successor for form customization inside of SharePoint, and it makes it easy to go take your great skills and great capabilities that you've constructed in the platform and bring them into the Office apps where your employees are working each and every day. In addition to that, Teams is the same way. You can go add a Power App or Microsoft Flow associated with any team channel. And this makes it very easy for people to go interact with your Power App in the context of Teams, where the conversation is already happening within your organization without forcing them to go learn yet another application or another place to go discover those capabilities. And Microsoft Flow sits there as well and enables all kinds of great automation on top of interacting with chat messages, as well as file movement and things like that. Next, we also have incredibly powerful Excel integration. We have Microsoft Flow and the Common Data Service natively integrated inside of Excel, so that you can very easily trigger your workflows based on what you select, as well as go import data from the Common Data Service into Excel and do all the slicing and dicing that you want and that you're used to doing. And this is all brand new capabilities announced as part of this spring release for the Power Apps platform. And fourth, and a very interesting element, is also the Power BI integration that we have, where you actually have Power Apps embedded inside of Power BI, as well as Power BI embedded inside of Power Apps. And what this allows you to do is when you're actually looking at your data to get insights, you're able to very clearly embed Power Apps to take actions on those insights and that data. And this makes it easy. You don't have to go switch again to another context. Completely in the experience you're used to with Power BI, you can go take action. And a common thing we'll hear from customers is you may be looking at, say, Salesforce performance, how your employees are actually doing. And if the performance isn't good, you may want to have a Power Apps form available right there to go trigger a workflow or remediation steps to hopefully go improve that performance. And that tight embedding really helps us transform what the experience is like for our customers and your employees when it actually comes to interacting with your business data and your business processes. It's available wherever they are. If we then turn over to the new UI capabilities, we have the WYSIWYG canvas-based app creation, which is super familiar and very commonly used today for Power Apps, which allows you to start from a beautiful PowerPoint-like UI, bind your data as needed, and actually create an experience that exactly matches what your business process and tasks require. Additionally, we have the new model-driven capabilities. And those are available just like the canvas-based ones on all types of different devices out of the gate, whether it be a mobile device or a tablet. And for those model-driven capabilities, those allow you to start from your data. Instead of using Canvas to start from the UI and then binding to the data, with model-driven, you start by defining your schema, your relationships, your entities, and then we automatically will generate UI on top of that. You can go tweak the UI as you need, but it's very much driven by the data and the relationships of those data. And these, again, are available across tablet devices, desktops, with a rich app module creation experience, and across all different form factors. And these two types of applications allow you to, again, span that whole spectrum of app creation without any cliffs, whether it's very simple, basic binding to data, all the way to the most complex UI that you want to hyper-tailor to what your customers or employees require. You can do both of those on one platform with Power Apps. Additionally, if we go change and drill into the WYSIWYG a little bit more, it's very, very easy for you to go manage that experience of what the UI looks like by screen by screen. And you can do this to go mash up data across different data sources, as well as actually use templates so you can get out-of-the-box support for common business processes that you may have to go interact with. Things like inspection or field services are very common scenarios for our customers, and we have rich templates and rich UI available out of the box to go enable those on top of your existing business application data. If we look at the data that actually powers the applications that you construct, we have the Common Data Service and the Common Data Model. In the Common Data Service, as we mentioned earlier, the important element is now all of the Dynamics 365 data is just available natively right inside of CDS without having to do any data integration, data copying, or data movement. And that means if you create a Power App, it will automatically update in place the same data that your salespeople would see in their sales application or your marketing people would see in their marketing application. And it's again because it really is a single data store. And we've been able to enable this as part of the platform with complete backwards compatibility. So that means if you already have customizations and experience on top of Dynamics 365, they don't change at all. You don't have to do anything to take advantage of these new capabilities. They're just available out of the box. And if we go look at the Common Data Model, that's something that allows us to find very common business entities and objects. And this is a very important thread throughout the entire platform because it enables tight integration by our ISVs and partners to go do additions. And if you look at what Adobe has done, they're actually going and doing extensions of the Common Data Model using their own XDM to create a combined unified view of business data for our joint customers. And this Common Data Model is a key kernel of the Common Data Service to go make it possible. If we go look at custom application development, we would recommend to start first and foremost by looking at the Common Data Service as a place that you store that data. But the reality is you can't always do that. Sometimes you have a huge number of systems already in place within your enterprise. And for that, Microsoft very uniquely has over 200 built-in connectors that you can drop into your application without having to write any code. You can just snap them in. And this makes it possible for you to go connect to your data wherever it is without having to worry about how you bring it into the Common Data Service or do a data integration project. And these connectors span the full spectrum of what your employees would require or what your business would require. There are things like file services, SharePoint, Box, Dropbox, web APIs to cloud services like AWS, Azure, and so on, as well as common business applications like Workday, Marketo, SAP, and so on, all available out of the box, very easily and very natively integrated with what you need, and it's the same application platform for UI creation. And these different data sources are, again, a really key element that we make very easy to use. And we do that by what we call mashup or composite applications. So composite applications allow you to go to multiple data sources, say Dynamics 365 and SharePoint, and bring them together into a single experience. And this mashup capability, again, is something very unique in the industry that you can do without writing any code. And even if we don't have over one of those 200 connectors as one that you require, you can go create your own. You can create a custom connector and drop that in with your developers and with your code, and that will enable it inside the same system. And to operate on all these different data sources, there's a very simple Excel-like language built into Power Apps, in which we saw in the demo from Ryan earlier. This simple language makes it easier to do lookups, filters, and so on without going and having to learn a brand new programming language, since it's like Excel, and also without having to go drop into developer experience to go code everything up. And again, all out of the box, all on top of those same canvas-based and model-driven app creation experiences that we were just talking about. And another core part of the Power Apps platform is Microsoft Flow. It enables rich workflow capabilities as well as business processes to actually manage the UI experiences for end users. Microsoft Flow supports the same 200 plus connectors as well as the Common Data Service, just like Power Apps. And that makes it so you can very easily build automations as well as applications that tie together tightly and build on top of the same data. And not only can you actually trigger Microsoft Flow based on changes in data with events and triggers, you can also trigger it based on a button pressed or activity taken inside of UI created inside of Power Apps. And altogether, this makes it very easy to transform repeatable, simple tasks within your organization to actually automate them away. And you can also go use business processes to completely control the experience for your end users to make sure that they complete the necessary steps and necessary gates as part of, say, interacting with a customer or closing a support ticket. All of that is possible using the Microsoft Flow capabilities, which is richly and natively integrated inside of Power Apps. And across both Microsoft Flow and Power Apps, there's enterprise-grade admin management and compliance management. And the way this works is we actually have a central admin center which looks across all your Dynamics 365 applications, as well as Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and Common Data Service to enable a rich set of capabilities. First is it's all managed inside Azure Active Directory. Your user list, your security policies like two-factor authentication, as well as conditional access so that you can have management around devices with Windows Intune or other MDM offerings. Additionally, in this admin center, there's rich reporting and rich auditing capabilities so you can see what people are doing with Power Apps and Microsoft Flow inside your organization and make sure that they're behaving according to what you actually want them to do based on a compliance and security perspective. And beyond just reporting, there's also data loss prevention policies. And these policies make it so that you can't go and actually flow data from a high business impact or a very sensitive environment to a lower sensitivity environment, like say the internet. So a common example we may see from our customers, they don't want you to say take something from a lockdown SharePoint document library and then send it in an email out to potentially people outside your company. And you can actually enforce that with the data loss prevention capabilities inside of the platform. And altogether, all of these different capabilities come together to provide an incredibly compliant and enterprise-grade experience to not only manage the applications that Microsoft builds as part of Dynamics 365, but also what ISVs build that also extend the same application platform, as well as what your IT department or individual employees as citizen developers may build. All of them could fall under the same centralized, unified admin experience with those rich capabilities for both auditing, reporting, and enforcement. And beyond that, there's also a very important element of the platform, which is AppSource. AppSource is the one-stop shop to go install applications from ISVs and third parties, as well as partners of Microsoft, right inside your Common Data Service or your Power Apps instance. They all interact and play together in an incredibly powerful and unique way, and they're all on top of that same platform. So all of those rich governance capabilities that we just talked about would apply to things that you install from third parties as well. In addition to going outside of your company, there's also an organization-level AppSource capability. So you can actually construct applications within your company and publish to your employees, and they can actually go pull them down and make use of them in an easily discoverable way. And again, all of this is built on top of that same platform with the same Common Data Service, with the same business data and the same security, all bundled together. And that really goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning today. When you go look at the digital feedback loop, we go bring together from Microsoft with Dynamics 365, the marketing, sales, service, operations, financials, and talent applications, as well as those little pebbles in between, which you can get from ISVs or build yourself. They all play together and they all integrate together on top of one platform, the Microsoft platform for business applications, which is Power Apps, Power BI, and Microsoft Flow. And with that, thank you for your time today. And I'd just ask one call to action for people that are listening in. Go check out Power Apps. Go to powerapps.com, sign up, and in just a few minutes, you can go build these same applications that you saw today with the demo and on these slides in the same workflows. And I look forward to hearing from you as you go and actually build those. Thank you.